What's something dumb you thought as a kid? That drinking and driving meant any kind of drinking. I would get so nervous when my dad and I would get fast food that a cop would see him drinking his soda and arrest him. Me too. I told the police officer who visited my first grade class to talk to us about drinking and driving that my mom drinks and drives all the time because she used to get big 32-ounce drinks every day at a drive-thru. An island was a giant piece of land floating in the ocean. I used to want to see under islands. My wife thought that until a few years ago. She's 39 now, so probably 35 when she figured it out. I told her mom that story, and her mom looked at me and said, "Wait, they don't float?" So I know where she got it from. I thought my TV was too small to see adults in shows like Tom and Jerry and the Powerpuff Girls. I thought Barbara Bush was Eve from the Bible. The news said she was the First Lady, and I didn't know what else that could mean, and she did look pretty old from my perspective. This triggered a memory for me. I thought my mom was the secretary to President George Bush. I remember hearing she was promoted to be a personal secretary to the head of her company whose name was George. My 5-year-old brain didn't really have a point of reference for the amount of people named George. When I was a little kid and my parents were driving, I would see the car in front of us have these rear blinking lights, and generally speaking, they always lit up pointing in the direction our car would be turning. How did it always know? I didn't understand what they were for, so I thought they were there to give instructions on where to go to the car behind it, us. After all, how did my dad always know which road to take, get to McDonald's, Toys R Us, etc.? Obviously, he was following the instructions provided by the car in front of us. Hence, I'd always get concerned whenever my dad ignored the instructions the car in front of us was giving with its little blinking rear light. But I figured my dad was just taking a shortcut because he was my dad and dads know everything. Edit. For people asking mentioning our car's dashboard blinkers, I had a simple explanation for that. I thought the car in front of us was also transmitting a signal to also show the arrows in case it was raining or snowing and it was difficult to see the car in front of us. I thought that when you stop the car, you also must perform some extra actions to manually turn on off the stop signals and warn the drivers behind you. I never thought the braking process itself, and these lights were connected. When I was probably 5, I used to think the highway was full of cars who were racing each other. I would get so excited when my dad would pass someone. I remember telling him good job once after he passed like 5 cars at once, but then I was like, "But Dad, that gray car is way ahead of you." And he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "He's winning, don't let him." At that point, my dad just had to shatter my illusion by telling me it wasn't a race. I was just thinking about this today, actually. I don't know what reminded me, but I'm even a little embarrassed today at how dumb I was. When I was like 7 or 8, I was on a competitive swim team. I was pretty bad at it. I got a lot of participation ribbons, I'll put it that way. One day I dove in the water and thought, I should try swimming fast today. So I did, and when I poked my head out of the water, my coach was standing there looking at me like wide-eyed. She yelled, "That's a first. You got first place." I won the race. Or whatever you call winning at swimming. Anywho, I randomly remembered that years later, and it hit me. Like, what the fuck was I doing before that? Did it just never occur to me to try to win? What did I think swim meets were for? Just for fun? And why did I never try this new trick of swimming fast again? God, I was so dumb. I had a friend tell me about her sister's birth. She said her butt was shaved, and for the longest time I thought babies were born with very hairy butts. I didn't realize her mom probably had to be shaved until I was older. I also thought parents had to have sex regularly during a pregnancy to keep the baby fertilized or it would die. I grew up Catholic. We did not speak of the sex. Escalators would consume me if I didn't step off fast enough. Holy shit, I saw a video about some girl falling through it, and it still scares me. Yeah, that's not nearly as dumb of a belief as we all want it to be. I remember reading about that incident, and seeing the video, and realizing that childhood fear wasn't as irrational as I had thought. I went to a Catholic elementary school. I was giving a presentation in front of my 2nd grade class regarding how God created the heavens, the earth, the mountains. I never really understood how the timeline worked around all that. I just knew the basic bullet points of the creation story. But then I go on some tangent about how upon the creation of Earth, remember, I didn't understand the timing around it, and just winged it. God must have been a big fan of prominent historical figures. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Jefferson, Roosevelt. My second grade teacher realizes what I'm about to do, and rescues me from the impending hurricane of ridicule I was about to summon from my peers. She hurriedly separates me from my execution panel, and in the privacy of the hallway, explains to me that Mount Rushmore was not a natural occurrence. My brother is quite a few years older than me and liked to tell me little fibs all the time. Some of the more memorable ones include him telling me that our uncle invented hamburgers, and that lemonade has a little bit of pig pee in it. My dad used to tell fibs like that. He used to tell me that when you sprayed a fly with bug spray, it didn't actually kill the fly. It just blinded it so it would crash into the wall, or if it was on the table, it would just walk off the edge of the table, and that's what killed them. My parents used to say they worked to make money, so I thought their job was actually printing money. Me too. In kindergarten, I had to draw my dad at work. My picture showed him sitting at a desk with a pile of coins on top. That I was the only one in the world with actual thoughts and feelings, and everyone else was just part of my reality. I had a brief theory that there was only one consciousness that was reincarnated into every person through history. Every person was a past, present, or future version of myself that didn't remember any of my other lives. I thought the world used to be black and white. It was. It changed right in the middle of The Wizard of Oz. It's on video. I used to think that Michael Jackson invented color on cameras. In one of his music videos, it goes from black and white to color. That all dogs are male and all cats are female. Ha, I thought this, and also that sharks were male and dolphins were female. I thought that cows were female and horses were male, but don't know if that was a common one. The moon was following me. When my daughter was 4, she asked me if the sky at home is the same as the sky at school. When I was like 4 or 5, I used to think that when a toy commercial said, "batteries not included," it meant batteries not required. I'd often use it as a selling point to convince my mom to butt it for me. "Mom, it even says batteries not included." That people would come in the night and cut off any appendages not covered by blankets. I conveniently convinced myself heads didn't count, because that would be too gross. Yep, while sleeping I kept my toes covered no matter what. Did it well into my 30s. To microwave something you had to put in a code that corresponded with the time. I was really confused when I found out you just entered the time. That when I turned 10, I would be able to see Pokemon in the world. My 10th birthday was a little disappointing. Imagine thinking that, and then on your 10th birthday, Pokemon Go is released. Adults knew what they were doing. I thought my penis had fallen off. I was about 4 years old when I saw my aunt changing my baby cousin's diaper, and I saw a bit too much of his baby junk for comfort. I guess she figured it didn't matter. I was just a toddler. As a little girl who had not yet learned about genitals, I was baffled. What on earth is it? The only explanation my 4-year-old chimbrain could come up with to explain my baby cousin's penis, and my lack thereof, was that babies are just born with them, and mine must have fallen off somewhere along the way. I thought that eventually, baby cousins would fall off too, in the same way baby teeth fall out. I was around 4 or 5, and from my understanding humans were monkeys in the very beginning. I got into a huge argument with a classmate because I was convinced we developed as monkeys in our mother's womb and eventually grew into humans before being born. I didn't know turn signals were manual. I thought the car just knew where we were going. That I was gonna be happy when I grew up. I used to think germaphobes were just people scared of Germans or Germany. When I was a boy, I was outside and not dressed for the cold. My mother said, "Come inside or you'll catch pneumonia." But I thought she said, "Come inside or pneumonia will catch you." And a swirl of leaves came up the driveway towards me. For years I thought pneumonia was some creature that looked like a swirl of leaves that would attack you. That I was intelligent. My mom used to tell me and my siblings that the car wouldn't start until everyone had their seat belts buckled. I believed that until I was 9 or 10. I said this to my kids when they were growing up. One kid thought he was sneaky and unbuckled on the way down the driveway. I shut off the car and yelled, "Who unbuckled?" while it rolled to a stop. No one unbuckled again. That tiny cops lived in traffic lights, and they directed traffic. What's something dumb you thought as a kid? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.